All right, we'll call our meeting to order. And if we would stand for the pledge, please. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're going to take things out of order just a bit per the agenda, and we're going to start right off with the most fun reason why we're even here tonight, and that's the valedictorian and salutatorian recognition. So I guess I turn that over to you, Mr. Burke, or just right over to Mr. Oliver, I guess.
Let's go right to Mr. Oliver.
Everybody good? Is this thing on? Good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. It is with great pride that I get to introduce to you tonight, first of all, Evan Bove, the salutatorian of the Massena Central High School class of 2025. Evan, stand up so they know which one you are over there. You can sit down now, it'd be awkward. As the son of Nina and Chad Bove, who he is here with tonight, Evan has consistently demonstrated a commitment to excellence that has not only defined his own achievements, but has also elevated the entire school community. Evan's journey to becoming the salutatorian is marked by his unwavering intellectual curiosity, a profound love of learning, and an exceptional work ethic. These attributes have propelled him to secure the number 2 position in a class of 189 students, boasting an impressive GPA of 99.74. Beyond academics, Evan has made a significant impact within our high school music department. A dedicated musician, Evan has played the piano for 13 years, I believe, and is an integral part of our jazz band. He also showcases his talent on the alto saxophone in our concert band and is a member of the esteemed sax quartet, performing at school concerts and community events alike. Evan's leadership skills are evident through his active involvement in the National Honor Society and his role as president of the French National Honor Society. And in all of his free time, Evan enjoys a diverse range of activities, from playing games and reading to spending quality time with friends, playing the piano, and learning new languages, just for the heck of it. However, Evan's impact extends beyond his academics and music. He is a young man of humility, kindness, and patience, exuding a calm composure and demonstrating excellent judgment and thoughtfulness in all of his endeavors. As Evan prepares to embark on the next chapter of his educational journey at Cornell University, where he will major in linguistics and foreign language, we celebrate not only his academic and extracurricular achievements, but also the exemplary qualities he embodies as a scholar and as a gentleman. Congratulations, Evan. We're very proud of you. Mr. Evan Bove. Want to do a picture? No, you can. I just got back from a softball game, not dressed for it. I forgot to mention, this is one of my favorite things to do every year, is introducing these fine young people to you. We get the honor of getting to know them, and it's nice to share just this much about them with the members of the school board. And without further ado, I will get right into introducing Miss Megan Fernstein, the valedictorian of the class of 2025. It's with a great sense of admiration that I stand before you today to introduce the valedictorian of the class. Megan is the daughter of Molly Clough and Eric Fernstein, who are here with her tonight. She's also got her brother and his girlfriend and a friend of hers with her to support her this evening. Megan is, through the remarkable achievements she's had at the school, she's earned this honor and of being the top of a class of 189 students. Megan's academic journey has been defined by her exceptional dedication and unwavering commitment to excellence, culminating in an impressive 100.1 GPA for her time at Massena High School. Her steadfast seriousness of purpose in her studies, combined with a balanced and grounded approach, has not only propelled her to the top of her class, but also enriched our entire school community. Megan's positivity and creativity make her an invaluable asset to Massena Central High School. Beyond academics, Megan's involvement in our school community activities is both extensive and meaningful. She is a key member of our basketball, soccer, and golf teams, serving with distinction as team captain in both basketball and soccer. And I seem to think there was 1,000 points somewhere in there this year as well. Her leadership extends to being the president of the Interact Club, where she has played an instrumental role in planning and organizing numerous initiatives. Her commitment to community service is evident in the countless hours she has devoted to giving back. Additionally, Megan is a member of the National Honor Society and serves as vice president of the Spanish National Honor Society. In her leisure time, which I'm not sure how much of it there is, she relishes hiking, exercising, reading, and cherishing moments with her family. However, what truly distinguishes Megan is her character. She embodies authenticity, grace, and confidence without arrogance. Megan is mature, observant, and poised, and she is never afraid to express her thoughts and her ideas. She is a genuine, down-to-earth young woman who knows her worth and occupies her space with humility and assurance. As Megan prepares to embark on the next phase of her journey, she plans to attend Western New England University in the fall to major in psychology. We have no doubt that she will continue to excel and make significant contributions to her field in the community. It has been an honor and a privilege to witness Megan Fernstein represent Massena Central High School. We celebrate her remarkable accomplishments and wish her every success in her future endeavors. Miss Megan Fernstein, the valedictorian of the class of 2025. Time to go take a picture, guys. Thank you, as always, members of the board, for letting me share these people with you this evening. And if you don't mind, I'd like to invite them to leave because they may or may not have IB exams tomorrow they need to go home and get ready for. So thank you so much for giving us a few minutes tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. And as much as you enjoy this particular meeting, Mr. Oliver, I think we enjoy it. Maybe not quite as much as you do, but it's certainly a highlight of the year for us too. Moving on with our agenda, do we have anyone here that is here to make a statement before the board, comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to information and reports, and we'll start with our second to last student ex officio report from Ms. Beard.
Sorry. Okay, so things at the high school are starting to slow down as the end of the year approaches. There are 2 weeks left in IB exams, and Regencies should begin in about a month or so. There is a pep rally tomorrow that is leading into prom, which is this Saturday.
That's it? Okay. I hope we win prom. Thank you very much, Isabel. Moving on to my report, I have a couple of things. This is exciting, and I'm so pleased that this has gotten the legs that it has. On June 16th, we are going to be having, I think, probably the first board-sponsored senior reception for all of the soon-to-be graduates. And that's going to be at 7:30 in the morning on June 16th in the auxiliary gym. The seniors will be offered a continental breakfast. We'll likely have some brief remarks from Mr. Burke and hopefully another board member or two. This offers us an opportunity to chat with the graduates or soon-to-be graduates, talk about their future plans, express our pride in their accomplishments, etc. Basically, Ashley has handled very much the sort of the decor and the catering for which will be done in-house. We've got some very nice decorations. The Aux Gym will be decked out very appropriately. Last about 45 minutes to an hour, and the event will be taking place prior to the students' traditional walk through the elementary schools that they do. And I think is that the last day of classes? Last academic day. So I want to really express my appreciation to Trish, who took this, kind of as her project and ran with it, got a committee together, and we chatted things over. We managed to, I think, do a good job as well with the senior survey, which we're looking forward to hearing more about here in the next little bit. And I think this senior reception has the makings of being a really great event. So thank you for all of your role in making that happen, Trish.
Teamwork. And don't forget there's refreshments. That's the most important thing.
Well, the most important thing is that as many of us as possible can be there. It's early in the morning. You don't necessarily need to stay for the whole thing, but come and express your appreciation for the work of our graduates. That's what it's all about. It's really, it was conceived as, and I think it really has the potential to be, an event that really helps the board make more of a connection with the graduates. Please do come, and we'll be filling your inbox and talking more about that at the next board meeting as well. So we'll really try to pin you down. The next thing that I have has to do with the St. Lawrence Lewis County School Boards Association. If you don't know anything about the School Boards Association, which I quite honestly I knew a little bit, but not nearly as much as perhaps I should have, having been on the board for 11 years. But the School Boards Association was formed pretty close to 30 years ago as a way to share information, resources, plan regional events, do regional professional development for school boards in our BOCES region. It's had active years, and it's had its not so active years, and currently the School Boards Association is kind of in its less active state. A couple of months ago, when Roger Bennett was here to seek our support for his BOCES board candidacy, One of us offered the opinion that there should be more communication between BOCES and the local districts. And I can't remember who it was that made that comment, but it was a valid one, and he took it to heart. And understanding that the School Boards Association was really not very active, had made some inroads in trying to connect myself with the leadership of the School Boards Association. So it seems like that communications piece would be made better and could be furthered by having a more active regional School Boards Association. I think that that would help. So yesterday, I attended a meeting with the president of the Regional Association. Her name is Alexa Backus-Chase, and she's a board member from Heuvelton. And Jenny Coburn, who's the administrative assistant for Tom Burns, our BOCES DS, and kind of also serves in a similar role to like a board clerk for the School Boards Association. We talked a lot about how we could make, or hopefully make, the association more active and more vital, and to offer more services to our local boards of education. And as a result of that meeting, I have agreed to step in as an interim vice president. Basically, the association prior to yesterday consisted of the president and the administrative assistant. They're really just, there's nobody that is very active at all in the School Boards Association. So I've agreed to step in and be a part of that. And we're going to be doing a couple of things to hopefully try to build interest in the School Boards Association and make it more active. I'm going to be reaching out to all of the local board presidents to see if at least some of the boards could appoint a liaison that could attend meetings of the School Boards Association, which would not be terribly numerous during the year, 2 or 3, but enough to do some planning, enough to perhaps put a professional development type program together that could be utilized by more than just one board at a time. Ms. Backus-Chase is going to be putting a survey together that will be sent to all of the members of the local boards in an effort to solicit ideas or feedback on the types of activities that the School Boards Association could potentially be involved in. In the meantime, it's not like the School Boards Association does nothing. There is a slate of annual events that the association does host and organize, mostly through the efforts of Mrs. Coburn. But the attachments that are underneath the heading on your agenda, the 24-25 events are listed there, and these have been happening every year. There are 2 for this year that are still going to be happening. That's the graduates, the senior recognition dinner that they have every year, and also a newly elected school board member orientation session that they put together. Those are still happening, and they have been happening. But the idea would be to try to just increase the number of bodies that are coming together to discuss common issues and common needs that local boards of education have, and talking about them and working on communications and event type things that could be of benefit to everyone in the school board realm in the area. The other two items that are linked there are just the agenda that we talked about, the items that we talked about in our meeting yesterday, and then notes that were sent along by Alexa afterwards. So I guess the Massena School Board, for now anyway, is kind of taken care of. I've volunteered to be involved in the regional association. I hope that we're able to convince other boards that it would be a good idea for them to increase their involvement as well. So that concludes my report, and with that, I'll turn
I have a
the
question.
meeting. Oh, yeah, please.
So does BOCES have a special relation with that association?
Well, as a Board of Education in the St. Lawrence Lewis County area, they would have potentially a seat at the table. But, and the, Ms. Coburn, the sort of, the person that's been doing the bulk of the work of the association, putting on the events and that kinds of thing, she happens to be a BOCES employee.
Okay. You're right.
Any other questions?
If that helps the communication from BOCES to the boards, there's some benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's the hope. But that is to be determined. We'll just, we'll do our best to reach out to everybody and try to draw some interest.
Paul, real quick, I was just looking at the the agenda meeting notes. Where did I see they've got some funding? Where do they pull that funding from? Is it-
Actually, I think our board and all of the boards do pay dues to the
Dues? Okay,
association.
yep.
So from that perspective, it really only makes sense to have some additional level of activity than there has been, you know, just for the bang for the buck perspective.
All boards participate in the funding of this?
In the, yeah, I believe so, yes, including the BOCES board. I want to say the dues for this year were along the lines of $300. We could look that up, but okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, we'll turn the meeting over to Mr. Burke for his reports.
All right, I'll quickly do the rest of my report, and then if it's okay, I'll jump into the budget hearing. So to finish up my report, we have requests for bus utilizations, first from PAL for the summer program starting on July 9th and going through August 12th. And in your packet, there's a list of the various trips that they plan to take. Likewise, Massena Joint Recreation Commission will also be utilizing our school buses for summer programming as well. And we also have an out-of-country field trip request. It's the annual trip to Drooler's Archaeological Site, taken on by our Haudenosaunee culture class. So I'll be recommending those. Any questions on that? All right, if I could then, all right to do the budget hearing at this point?
I completely, since we went out of order at the
That's
beginning, I
okay.
completely passed over that. It's what we should have done right after the Val Sal presentation.
Perfectly fine. Okay. So our proposed budget is $74.4 million. It's a spending increase of $2,079,637. Along with that, though, there is a $0 and a 0% tax increase with this. The increases are going to be covered by our additional state aid funding. As we go to our next page, talking about our projected expenses, when we take a look at this, our revenues from our taxes, which also includes more than just the property taxes, but use of the facility, $15.158 million. use of money, that's our interest that we are accruing on our reserves and unexpended fund balance of just over $3 million. Additional funding, $1.5 million, that comes from a variety of sources. State and federal aid amounts to the bulk of our budget at $51.4 million. Some transfers of funds, $300,000, and then appropriating some of our fund balance to balance out our budget, $2.8 million. On the expense side, because we are an educational agency, most of our expense is related to people. It's our employees, salaries, benefits. And when you look at that, our salaries across the district amount to $30.3 million, and the benefits are $20.7. We do have principal and interest payments of $3.9 million. We're looking at our buses to cost about $1.8 million. Our bill to BOCES, $11.4. And then other miscellaneous, which is more than just miscellaneous, it's a very large number at $6.2 million, but it's textbooks, furniture, other types of requests. And I have not updated this page on the sheet as of today. We now have actual numbers for state budget. So we'll be getting this updated. It does not change our bottom line. We had anticipated on the governor's side that we would have foundation aid of $37.78 or $76 million. And based on the enacted budget, or soon to be enacted budget, that number is going to increase by a little over $800,000 on our foundation aid to $38.6 million. So we have some really positive news there. Most of the other line items on the state aid side remain the same. So again, we know we're getting some more money on the state side for next year. Total foundation aid, and again, keep in mind that this was the estimate as of this morning before the governor's announcement came out on the budget. You can see our growth has been fairly steady over the past 4 years. We had a kind of a lull for a while, and then when foundation aid started to be fully implemented, we saw that change happening. Last year, we saw a $1.4 million increase, and this year that increase doubled. So our foundation aid is really growing quite fast, especially compared to other schools. And it's really based on some changes to the formulary, which recognize the needs of districts like Massena, where we have a much higher poverty rate than some other schools. So we're seeing some of that now really starting to kick in. Our property tax cap this year was calculated to be 4.49%. Again, we do not need additional money from our taxpayers. Therefore, the tax that we're asking for is an increase of 0%. When we start looking at budgets, especially the budget of this size, we always wonder, why are the costs rising? Where does that $2 million come from? So I went through our budget and pulled out some of the major cost increases from the beginning to the end. Our health insurance, we are doing rather well as a consortium. Our increase is 3.5% on our premiums. However, that calculates to $463,000. That's almost 25% of our overall increase. As we developed this budget this year with the Finance Committee, one of the commitments that we really had was to, first of all, go out with $0 tax increase, but also to be cognizant of what the future might hold, taking a very conservative approach and not adding positions because there are legacy costs. However, that's not always 100% possible. And what we ended up with is paring it down to what we believe were the absolutely essential positions that we need to add for next year. We know that with our students that are coming to us, more and more have needs, and speech is one of the biggest needs that we face. And it's also a need for our children that attend UPK. It's the county's responsibility to reimburse us for that, and they will, but we also have to have a provider, and we currently don't have enough to manage our own students, K through 12. We need that additional speech person. Likewise, school psychologist, and then we've talked about this at the board level prior. Again, we have growing needs, but we also are looking at allowing our special education director to really focus in on their job of being the director and not having to attend approximately 200 to 300 CSE and 504 meetings. So this new psychologist will be doing evaluations, and they'll also be leading some of those meetings to free up, again, our director. Our bill to BOCES for our career and technical education tuition is increasing by a little over $200,000, and that's based primarily on our census. So we look at our 3-year rolling average of the number of students we send to BOCES, and they calculate our bill, and our numbers are going up, as well as the cost of attending BOCES. Keep in mind that with some of these BOCES CTE, there is some aid that does come back from the state on that one. It's a year delayed. Last week, we voted on the BOCES administrative budget. Our share of that cost increase is $207,000. And again, just to reiterate, I always need to make sure the public understands, when we talk about the BOCES administrative budget, that is not strictly salaries related to administrators. In fact, the vast majority of that administrative service budget goes to post-retirement benefits for employees. And keep in mind, that portion of the administrative budget is fully aided. So when we look at this $207,000 increase, a year from now, we will get approximately 80% of that back. So again, it's a year delay. On the next page, major cost drivers included also a 5th bus. I did ask, typically we've been going out for 4 buses. However, the process or the thought of electrifying our buses within a short time frame between now and 2035, and the fact that as of the law yesterday, we would not be able to purchase any more diesel buses after the absolute deadline of 2029, trying to fortify our diesel fleet. So that's why that's there. That 5th bus would be a 30-passenger full-size bus that would also have a wheelchair lift, and I believe it will hold either 2 or 3 wheelchairs. Excuse me. We have a number of vehicles that are truly at or beyond their life expectancy. That includes pickup trucks with plows. It includes some of our maintenance vans that are used by our maintenance folks and also by our IT. To go out and replace all of those in 1 year, it's not cost effective. We've been looking at a lease program through Enterprise, and this lease program would in the first year have a price tag of $106,000. That's the maximum. That's without the trades. So once we do our trades, we know that number is going to come in lower. We just don't know how much lower. And eventually all of our vehicles that are not buses, not transportation related, would be with Enterprise. The estimate that we would have in savings over a 10-year time period by entering into this agreement is approximately a $250,000 savings. And they monitor our vehicles for us. They watch for in 2.5 to 3 years. They're watching to see when is that vehicle going to have the best market value for a trade-in, and they'll be advising us to trade and then take another vehicle in its place. This is a program that's utilized, I believe it's by the Village of Massena, St. Lawrence County, and St. Lawrence BOCES locally, as well as a number of other school districts around the North Country and throughout the state. So it's tried and proved, and again, we're pretty confident that this is going to have long-term benefits. And finally, the contract with the Village of Massena for our SRO shows an $80,000 increase this year, and the Village of Massena was arbitrarily charging us around $70,000 to $80,000. That's not the true cost of our SRO, and the village is asking and basically requiring that if we want to maintain that relationship, that we do need to pay the full cost of the individual. There are still other costs that are associated with the SRO that the village is still picking up. So as you see our SRO work on different days when school's not in session, we need to keep in mind that there is a little bit of give and take on this, that we're not paying for the police vehicle. We are not paying for the equipment that the police officer has. We're not paying for the training. This is just what we're paying for is the true cost of the personnel and not all of the other materials that go along with that. We had a number of budget requests and that we were able to seriously consider and approve. Some of them we've talked about already, but some we have not, at least in this hearing. Under the elementary schools, we are proposing under this budget that we would hire a new teacher who would be split half-time art, half-time AIS. What that will do is give both Madison and Nightingale a dedicated individual for art. Right under the former system, we had one art teacher that was really responsible for almost 900 children between the two buildings. Having them at one building, they'll know the children better, and it also helps us with some of our AIS needs as well. That cost is estimated to be about $115,000. We already talked about special education, school psych, and speech pathologist. Adding those two together, approximately $205,000. Under the Office of Curriculum, we are looking for 3 new department chair people. One of those would be actually for folks that are in the AIS area. Again, we have a couple of areas that are without department chair people to organize meetings. It's just a need as we try to strengthen our program that those folks can get together under solid leadership. Under the Office of Educational Supports, under COVID, we used money to develop the Raider Academy, which was after school, and we also developed the Summer Raider Academy. COVID monies are no longer available. This year, under our current budget, we incorporated the cost of the after-school Raider Academy, and now we're looking to incorporate the cost of the Summer Raider Academy. It's a 4-week program, and it's very well attended. So again, we believe that that's a positive opportunity for our younger children. And we are also looking for our mentors and our new teachers to have at least one additional meeting, and that'd be an additional stipend for our mentors to accomplish this at $3,000. Under our athletics budget, we know that we're going to see some increases on our officials. That's negotiated through Section 10. Our estimate's $1,000. The next one is something that I think is extraordinarily important, and that is to have an ambulance for our high-risk games, primarily football and ice hockey. And what Mr. Reagan is trying to do is to negotiate with Massena Rescue to have a staff with an ambulance here for those games. We had an incident, well, more than one, but we did have an incident this past year in hockey where a player was on the ice for about 20 minutes before help arrived. And that is, and I want to make clear, like I have in other meetings, that is not a complaint or a criticism of Massena Rescue. It's actually just the nature of the beast with changes at the hospital. Massena Rescue is doing more and more transports of emergency situations to Potsdam, which takes a crew out of our area for upwards of 2 hours. And to have a backup crew, and if you listen to the scanner, you know how busy Massena Rescue is. So again, this is just what we're facing with in our current medical situation. So again, we'd be looking to actually have that ambulance on standby right at either the rink or at our field. And we were very happy to report back over the course of the year that our number of students participating in track grew very rapidly. And we believe that if those numbers remain true for next year, we do need to have that additional coach. Not just to provide instruction in the sport of track, but also to provide safety and oversight to make sure that we have enough coverage. And again, that's estimated to be $6,000. On the transportation side, again, the 4 typical buses and 1 30-passenger bus with the wheelchair lift. And we're also looking, as we know, parts are getting more expensive, the inflation is hitting that, and we're looking for a $10,000 increase on the parts budget. Likewise, in technology, we're looking for a supply increase of $30,000. Many of those supplies that we do purchase through BOCES. And the reason we do that is if it's directly related to students, which could be anything with the network, it could be anything with the computers that they use or the smart boards, that can be aided by BOCES, again, a year out. We already talked about the vehicle leasing program, replacing 8 aging vehicles, and then 1 vehicle for conferences and meetings. We have a number of staff that do go out of district for conferences, whether it be to Canton or to Lake Placid or to other areas around the region. And again, this would save us from paying the IRS mileage rate. Each year, on the next page, we are allowed to go to the voters and ask for a capital outlay not to exceed $100,000. The capital outlay plan for this year is to put a security window in the high school vestibule going into the office. We estimate that to be somewhere between $40,000 to $55,000. We just did get new standards from the state of New York, so that might raise that a little bit. Any money that's left over, we'd be looking at the corridor behind us, behind the auditorium, and replacing some of that paneling, most likely with ceramic tile, and updating that area. Again, because that's capital outlay, that's also aidable at that 90% rate. The first proposition that voters will see is, of course, the budget proposition of authorized to expend up to $74.4 million. The second proposition we've had hearings on, or forums, and we'll have more, is on the capital project at $79.8 million. Again, that proposition for the capital project has a $0 local tax impact. We will be utilizing about $6 million out of our reserve funds, capital reserve funds, to pay the local share. The remaining 92%, 92.5%, is state aidable. The third proposition is we are again asking the voters to convert some of our surplus unexpended monies from this year into a capital reserve. This time we're asking again to go up to $5 million on a capital reserve, and this capital reserve is earmarked primarily for equipment. And that, when I talk about equipment, this one is really technology equipment, computers, smart boards, Chromebooks, and the reason I'm asking to allocate the money for that is we just ended up finally spending all of our smart bond money. We replaced all of our Chromebooks, we replaced all of the smart boards. We know that has a shelf life, and at some point in the future, 3 to 5 years for the Chromebooks, hopefully around 8 to 12 years for the smart boards, we're going to need to begin replacing those. We'll have the money in a savings account ready to take care of that. Again, keep in mind some of that, a lot of that, will actually be purchased through BOCES. So we'll pay up front with our reserve money and then get the money back the following year on that, because it is BOCES aidable, as long as, again, it's related to students. So again, trying to plan for the future in that rainy day account. The question always comes, what happens if the budget gets voted down? And that's what we now call the contingency budget. And the contingency budget is quite a bit different than the older austerity budget, where under an austerity budget, it really meant everything was austere and there were no student activities, there were no athletics. You'd have to go back to the voters to get each one of those approved. That's no longer the case. With a contingency budget, the board has a lot more leeway in terms of deciding what's necessary. So what does come out typically is the equipment. So the buses would go, the lease of the vehicles would go. And you can see that our contingency budget, if that were to happen, our contingency budget would result in a savings on the overall budget of about almost $1.8 million. Now, the board could still decide that buses are necessary. And the board could then say, instead of doing 5, we believe we absolutely have to replace 2 or absolutely replace 3. And just so everybody understands, we try to keep our buses right now on a 7-year rotation. And the reason for doing that is we extend the warranty out to 7 years, which is a max that we can go. And that covers everything related to the powertrain and the electrical. We're responsible for normal wear and tear, brakes, tires, that type of thing. But it covers everything else that's mechanical. And it does end up saving the district money in the long run to have those buses on that 7-year cycle. And I did not put this in here, but we also have 3 open seats on the Board of Education, and we have 5 candidates. The budget newsletter will be going out in the mail, I believe, tomorrow afternoon, so the public should be getting that sometime either Saturday or very early part of next week. And this year we did something a little bit different with our board candidates. Rather than having them all write their biographies and putting it on the newsletter and trying to meet very quick deadlines, which is tough, we actually put a QR link there. It's also on our webpage, so that if you want to learn more about our 5 board candidates, either use the QR and scan that, or just go to our webpage and you'll find that information there. Questions? I know we have a few people from the public. Any questions on the budget? Any questions from the board?
Those two propositions are kind of long. It would be nice if they were shorter, but I think the attorney vetted those and they have to be that long.
They have to meet a certain legal requirement, yes.
I mean, it confuses people when it's,
I guess I have a quick question concerning sort of the routine things that need to be maintained. Let's say, I don't know, something happens and a door gets damaged and we have to replace the door, something like that. What would something like that, or any sort of routine expense that the custodial staff or maintenance staff would have to fix, which general expense under the expenses that you have listed would a repair or routine maintenance item come out of? Would it be the other?
Some of it could be.
Okay.
Some could be under the BOCES and equipment side. When we talk about under the BOCES and equipment, it really depends on what we're talking about. So if it's a door, that would fall under the other. If it were a refrigerator that went down, we'd have to classify that as equipment. Okay. So it really depends on what we're talking about and what category that would come out of.
Okay, but all of that kind of thing is accounted for under the expenses?
Yes, yep. And so we do build in things of that nature, contingencies, under the building and grounds, under their budget.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Burke, not budget-related, but new board member-related, will there be any time for the public to have a meet and greet with the board members?
So typically, that's been done by the Massena Music Friends,
Okay.
and they have declined to do that this year.
Okay. Okay.
One final thing, unless there are other questions. The Channel 7 was here today. They wanted to talk about our budget and really about the project. And Mr. Caffarella, I think, did a really fine job asking a lot of questions and getting information. However, I do want to just point something out, and it's not that it's an inaccuracy in terms of the headline, if you go to WWNY, but it does talk about it's a record-breaking spending plan, which it is. And frankly, as I told them, that's really the case every year, almost every year for every school. It's a record breaker for that school. But when you see headlines like that, it's it's a little bit jarring. The second part is when you get into it, it talks about that we're asking the voters to spend $154 million. And that's not inaccurate. That's true when you add the overall operating budget and you add into that the capital project proposition. What it doesn't really talk about, though, is the operating budget is what we have deemed necessary to run the school from July 1 through June 30th. And that is at $74.4 million. We can't escape that. The nearly $80 million that we're asking voters to consider about with the proposition for the capital project is for really the next 15 to 20 years. When we replace the roof here at the high school or at J.W. Leary, we're not going to be doing it again next year, okay? So when we talk about that $80 million, it's the investment in our facilities to maintain our facilities, to keep our facilities viable for student occupation and for teachers and staff to be in our buildings. We saw what almost happened last year when our heat system was leaking, and we had no idea, how bad it really was or how much worse it would get before we had to shut the school down. So again, just like your houses, we have to do maintenance. This is really not a glamorous project. As I told Mr. Caffarella, when this project ends, I'm not sure who's going to want to come for a ribbon cutting ceremony. It's not real pretty. And there are things in our capital project that people are going to argue about and think are unnecessary. One of them, and I'll just pull the bandage back here right now, and that is the turf. The turf, however, is at the end of its life expectancy. When that turf was put in, actually, I think probably Mr. Hayes, you were still here. It probably had an expectancy of 10 to 15 years, and we're there. We're there. And when it gets to the point that it fails the compression test, we can't use it. It's not a matter of just then pulling the carpet out and throwing grass seed down. The sub-base of the turf field is not the sub-base for a grass field. So if that turf fails and we have to replace it, and the community says we want grass, we can do grass, but it means a whole rebuild of that area. So again, at some point, the community here decided they wanted the turf. They felt that was the investment for the future. And it was also hopefully expressed that there's an ongoing maintenance cost to this. Every decade or so, you're going to be pulling that out and putting new carpet down. Another one is the bus electrification. That is, about a $2.4 million proposition of that $80 million. And I think enough people have heard me already talk about my concern about electric buses and the whole process. However, we have, as of this last night, we had very firm deadlines. The original deadline to purchase electric buses was 2027. You could ask for a waiver for 2 years. So by 2029, you could not purchase anything but an electric bus. Not that they're not going to make diesels, it's that they're not going to be allowed to be sold to schools in New York State. That is state law. The other part of this is that by 2035, whatever diesel or gasoline buses you're running, you no longer are allowed to use. Every bus has to be electric. So we're planning for that worst, and I'm going to call it the way I see it. I look at this is our worst case scenario, that nothing changes with the law. So that $2.4 million is really a plan. We'll plan for it. We will identify how we're going to electrify and put the charging stations in, where they're going to go. But when it comes time for this, we're not going to go out for bid on this project until late 2026 or early 2027. My hope is that the law truly changes, and just because it's there doesn't mean we have to use it. So if the law changes and the board agrees, we're going to go along with the conventional fossil-fueled buses. We will scrap that $2.4 million electrification plan, and we'll go to Plan B. And Plan B is our diesel and our gasoline tanks are approaching the 20-year mark, and we know that at about year 25, we're probably going to be ordered by DEC to replace those. So instead of spending $2.4 million on electrification, hopefully we're talking about a price tag of somewhere around maybe $500,000 to $750,000 to replace those 2 tanks, and then we're done. So again, just because it says we're doing, we're planning $2.4 million on electrification, that's not necessarily what we're going to do, and I'm hopeful, based on what we're seeing, just beginning to see some language come out of the budget, that there may be some flexibility down the road. Okay, so I think there's some silver lining here that, again, but we're here today. We're going to be voting in less than 2 weeks. We had to include that because we had no idea where the budget was going to go or how the law could possibly change. Again, when we talked about $79.8 million, we're asking the voters to spend up to $79.8. So I believe there are a number of items in there that are highly priced. But again, I don't know what tariffs are going to do. We don't know how the economy is going to look in another year and a half when we go to bid. So we estimate high and hope things come in low. And if there are things that we don't need, we won't do them, such as bus electrification, hopefully. So again, anyone that has questions about the capital project, please ask. And I do think there are some things in that are absolutely essential. The pool. I just gave a tour before this meeting, and I'm glad that the individual said that's exactly how it looked when she was here at school. And same thing with our women's locker room. Same as when she was here over 30 years ago. And then I did take her because there were no boys in the boys' locker room, and she saw that. And she wanted to know, how did this happen? That I didn't have the money. Okay? So again, I think there are some things that are truly essential. And then we're always going to have some disagreement about, is that line item really necessary or not necessary? And again, it's a committee decision to move those forward into our capital project. So again, I would ask people to really learn about what that capital project is, what it does, and again, we're talking about $0 local tax impact, and I understand we all are New York State taxpayers. We all pay that same bill. But again, there's so much in this project that is truly necessary. And I would just ask people to learn about what that project truly is. It's more than carpet out on the football field.
Mr. Burke, can you talk a little bit about how that's going to be funded, the capital project itself?
Yeah, so our estimated state aid, and there are always estimates, okay? So right now, our state aid on building projects is 92.5%. And that means there would still be a percentage of that that belongs to the local taxpayer, and that's estimated at just around $6 million. Currently, we have capital reserve funds, 3 of them, and they total $15 million. So we're looking at using 6 out of that 15, a maximum really of 6 out of that 15, and that would still leave us with $9 million for future projects, again, to offset or to eliminate local taxpayer share. Now, and I've heard this before, well, why don't we just use that money to pay the general fund, to pay our operating bills? Because we can't. When we create reserves, when a school district creates a reserve, that's the money that has to be used for that purpose. All right, you either have to wait for a reserve to expire and then reallocate it, or you have to go back to the voters and pull that money out for other purposes. It's not an easy process. So again, it's not like I can go grab that $6 million and offset our almost $14.8 million tax levy. That's not how it works. That's not the way the law is set up. So again, those reserve funds, we cannot just pull over.
I just have more, not a question, but more so a comment on just the justification of the budget. Just because it happened this morning, Mr. Debut's classroom, my math teacher, was relocated to the computer lab because there was literally stuff falling from the ceiling and causing students to cough. So I think coming from a student perspective, living in the school almost 8 hours every day, 5 days a week, while it looks nice on the outside, you start to notice really the issues in the school, like how when I go to the bathroom in the locker room, I have to have someone hold the door for me because there's no locks on the stalls, or how it's significantly worse than the boys' locker room. So I think while there might be some debate on the justification for what we're looking to improve, I think the improvements are necessary.
If we don't invest on the maintenance of the building this year, it's going to be more that's going to be required the next year because we didn't invest today. It's the same as your car, your house. We have to put a minimum, and we're not putting bells and whistles on the school. It's mostly maintenance.
Okay, and that concludes my report.
Oh, you did all of the other stuff before you did that. Okay, we're now on to recommended actions, folks. First are our consent agenda items. There aren't that many, but are there any that board members would like to have pulled out to vote on separately, or discuss questions or anything of the sort? I would like to pull out 7223 June graduation ceremony standards. Any others? Okay, with that, I would call for a motion for the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Okay, moving on to our other items for action. We'll vote first on item rather policy number. This is the second reading of policy number 7223, June graduation ceremony standards. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments? My only comment is a reiteration of what I said last time. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Next is approval of the Police Activity League bus utilization request.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of the Massena Recreation bus utilization request.
I think I have an abstention.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
okay.
An abstention, please. Sorry about that. Moving on to the Recreation Commission bus utilization request. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions there? Okay. Approval of the out-of-county field trip that was on our agenda. You get both of those, Ashley? Okay. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Next, we have approval of an MOA with the Massena Federation of Teachers on Give Back Days.
So moved.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Next is an approval of an MOA with the MCSEA on an insurance buyout.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? And lastly, we have personnel action items. Mr. Burke.
Mr. Haggett, I recommend that the board approve personnel action items listed as numbers 1 through 30.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Moving on to new business and future agenda items.
I know it's been talked about in the past, but I'd just like to look into it again. Language at the elementary schools and what we need to do to get that started at some point. Even if it's been, we've talked about it before, I'd just like to review it again and what we have to do to get that started.
Even if it meant 7th grade, reinstating that, that's what we had talked about too.
There's a plan, right?
It's,
So we had met with the elementary folks, and we had a committee, and it was determined at that point that the elementary level is not the place now to begin that, simply because of the time constraints of the regular school day. And, you know, we also have our assistant super, so I'm going to ask Nicole, if I miss anything, please feel free to discuss that. Next year, we are adding Mohawk, but again, you know, we've already got that at the junior high. We'll be adding that at the high school. We have not really had a serious conversation about doing it yet at the junior high. To get foreign language, I don't think at the 7th grade level. And part of that conversation will have to be both languages, French and Spanish, which then would involve most likely 2 teachers. And then, you know, as we go down the road, do we have the finances? Is that something that becomes the board's top priority to do? But we did have that conversation as we agreed upon last spring. We did meet as a full committee. We had elementary teachers there, and I believe we had current foreign language teachers involved. And I think Joyce, you may have been there,
yes,
and at least maybe you were the only board member.
yes.
Okay. And again, it was determined at that point, listening to our elementary teachers about the challenges of that and not sure that they could overcome those at this point.
Time constraints more than anything.
Yeah.
Although, and I always forget his name, I apologize, the head of the language department, Joe
Boyle.
Boyle, was very much in favor and was hoping that we could somehow institute 7th grade, that would greatly help his program. So, I mean, that would be a start.
Yeah. And I don't think many of us would disagree with that. I think, again, as we're preparing this budget, it didn't come to the front. We had a number of other requests as
Yes.
well. And, you know, I think that the Finance Committee wisely guided us in terms of, let's really limit our personnel items as additions this year. Just not sure where the economy is going to go. Will there be cuts coming to us from the federal level? Or will federal cuts, you know, hit Medicaid, which then has that domino effect that the state's going to have to come up with that money somewhere. So kind of that wait and see approach for at least the next few months and see really where we are as a state and a nation in terms of federal and state spending.
I'm glad to see that there's an interest for language. You saw the salutatorian, he's going to
Yes.
Cornell to study language and all that. Our country's getting more and more multilingual.
Yes.
We're on the border with Canada, we're next to the res, there's a need, and we all know that learning, the earlier you learn, the better it is. I was told that there's a program, BOCES offers classes where a student could learn or be exposed to second language, other languages, and they could learn from class, sitting in the same class. The teacher could take a break, she could correct work while the students are listening to a TV, but it's not really a TV, it would be somebody at BOCES giving the same class to multiple classes at the same time. There's an offer. We just need to look into that. It's going to free up the teacher, and it's aidable, and they're just there. Mr. Hershey is in charge of this. He says, you just need to have a demand. He's going to do it. So I hope, can we ask you guys to look into that?
We can. I don't think it was so really the issue, Robert, wasn't so much from the teachers that they're not comfortable teaching it. It was more that if I give up 30 minutes, what do you want me to take out of my day? And so as we're pointing, and I don't know, Ms. Charleston, if I'm getting that sense accurate. So when we look at our elementary, we're looking, you know, so we've got the goal this year, right? Benchmarks, really primarily being ELA and math. So if you incorporate something new into the course of the day, and depending on the frequency with which we do it, then that's the feedback we were getting is, all right, what do I give up? You know, do I give up, you know, quite honestly, when we start talking about, especially at the primary level, our focus is on math and on ELA, and primarily ELA, so our students become readers. And then we try to fit in elements of social studies and elements of science, you know, the 4 basic core. So again, I think the challenge for our teachers is good ideas, but how do we do this, and do we have permission to give something up? And, you know, and I'll be honest, as a teacher, my response would be, okay, if I give something up, if I give up even 20 minutes of math a week and my scores go down, is the administration, is the board going to come and ask me why? Because there's a, you know, it's like a seesaw effect. And again, it might just be fear because we haven't tried it. But again, we're giving you the feedback that we had from our committee.
Could we educate ourselves and look at what other schools were doing? Like Trinity was doing it, other schools are doing it. Where do they cut? Where do they find time? Maybe they're juggling 2 things at the same time. Maybe you could offer another language as you do recreative activity, or math, or you could history at the same time as you're talking another language or exposing to another language. There are strategies to be able to succeed when there's a desire. There's obviously a desire here for us to move towards this.
So it might be exposure. That might be something that we can go to. I think if we're really talking about truly teaching them, you know, how to become fluent before they get to 7th grade, that's probably where the issue becomes a little bit more problematic. You know, so as we did some of our research on this, and locally, the school that was kind of the flagship, as it might be, for foreign language at the elementary level was Lake Placid. And, you know, when Lake Placid saw that this board was entertaining or questioning I think it was maybe even 2 years ago when Mr. Brady was here, they actually reached out and said, do you want our program? Because for the very same reasons that our teachers are expressing concerns, they were living it and they were already feeling that. So that's when Lake Placid decided that they needed to give up the foreign language at the elementary. Again, is there a happy medium somewhere? I would like to think there is, and maybe it's just that we have to rethink of how we approach it. Maybe it doesn't become a formal class, and maybe it's something that we could do, I get nervous when I say this, is it something that we do after school? But then when we do it after school, it creates the haves and the have-nots, and not all children are able to stay after school. We can't always run buses, so there becomes an issue of making sure that all students have that. But we can certainly, I can talk with Mrs. Charleston, and we'll try to figure out what we can do again.
And you report back, can we not kick the can again, like indefinitely? Could we have an answer maybe in 2 months?
I think we might end up kicking the can again on this, though, because the elementary day is so packed. They've already met and spent all the time they've investigated. Are we going to ask them to do that again with all of the other?
I'm sorry, interrupted.
With all the other responsibilities? I don't know that it makes sense to. I mean, if you carve time out of an elementary day, then you lose science, and you lose some social studies, or you lose AIS time, or you lose a reading block, you lose math, or you're trading off art, you're trading music. The day's packed. I have a 5th grader. I know what her day's like.
I agree. I'm with Dan on this too. I've got two, one in 2nd grade and one in 4th grade, right? So I talk to my kids about their day, and I can understand it. I really, I love this topic. I think that foreign language is important, right? When I was in school, I was able to take French from 4th grade on, right? How they did it, I don't know, but that we know that classroom landscape has changed for teachers, right? They have to be more than just teachers sometimes. And so I think as my own perspective, I think sometimes as a board, maybe we have to take into account that conversation that committee had, right? And our teachers are our boots on the ground, right? There's so much experience, and they know their school better than anybody. And so if they're really saying, hey, listen, we want to do it, however, they're making the recommendation that it's going to be difficult to do, I think we have to just be cautious that we're not overburdening our teachers who are already working really hard for our elementary students too. If there's other opportunities that we can explore, I think that's great. But I caution just if we put too much pressure on that. If we don't want to overburden them.
I think the key thing you said already, exposure. Maybe not teaching the class, but looking into how do we expose them at a younger age to language and think outside the box, but not committing to full-time classes. But I think you said that, Mr. Burke, somehow expose them to it. How can we fit that in with exposure somehow without saying we can't do it? Why not think about a way that maybe we can do it with exposure somehow, and it won't be a full-fledged class, but somehow to expose kids at a younger age to the language. That's all. And if it's not possible, it's not possible. But somehow to expose them to it early on.
Raider Academy offer any time for that after school? I know it wouldn't be every student, but that's what I was getting at when Danielle gave her presentation the last 2 meetings ago. Is there any time during the after school?
I would want to defer back to Danielle and have a conversation with her, which we have not done, so.
Okay. It would require a volunteer going in, Robert, going in, or myself or something to help with the languages a bit, but I'd be very, very willing. So, there you go.
Like we met a year ago. The committee met last summer, so we're not imposing anything on anybody. We're not imposing homework on kids or more work on the teachers. We're just asking if you could look at strategies to meet this goal, this desire.
maybe we presented it too strongly as having, a good solid half an hour, because when Nicole had the meeting that you organized, I believed all of the principals. There is no time. They're taking away 15 minutes from here and 15 minutes from here and shortening specials. There is no time for it. They were truthful and they were honest, and I believed every word. So it does mean a strategy. It means an after school. It means something else. A creative block of time somewhere.
Any other items for future agendas?
Not really for a future agenda, but it was brought up. So when we have the reception for the seniors, and then the seniors go over to the elementary schools and they get to, high five I call them the littles. Is there any plan for the students that went to Trinity Catholic? Because they're going to be, for the first time, not going to Trinity to see the little kids there and celebrate that. And actually, our salutatorian was a Trinity Catholic student. So I just wondered if maybe somebody should reach out to Father Mark and see if they wanted to do anything. I don't know what could be done, but possibly there are still some faculty members that would be available that might just want to, have the bus drive through the parking lot and just kind of, celebrate them. Yeah. But it would mean that we need to get on top of that now so that they could make a plan and be prepared.
Yeah, let me reach out to Mr. Oliver tomorrow, and then and maybe we even engage. Yeah, let me reach out to him and we'll figure out.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think we did that in the past, right?
Yeah.
Our kids walked through Trinity.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It means a lot for the kids. My son went through his school last year, and being in front, I think they put the student that came from that school, either Madison, Jefferson, Nightingale, in front.
Yes.
They walk in their school, and
Yes.
they're big now, and all
Yes.
the little kids admire them,
Yes.
especially in front of the line. It's a special experience. Trinity would mean a lot for them if we could recognize that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, again, that I didn't know that the salutatorian came from Trinity, but that's probably where he picked up the second language, because he didn't pick it up here.
Exactly. Exposure.
Thank you for thinking of that. I think that escaped me, for sure. Any other future agenda items to be discussed? Mr. Burke, do we think that by next month we would at least have some percentages
Oh, yes.
for the Life Track survey?
I know Mr. Oliver's still hunting down seniors to finish up those surveys.
When is that deadline? When does the window close that they can submit?
I don't think we actually have a closed window. I think it's
Oh.
when he lets them know we hit a percentage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the company themselves, they're very, very easy to work with. So.
Okay, hearing no other items for future agendas, new business, we'll move to comments from the public and the press. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to have a word with us? Yes, sir.
Can I come down there, because I'm having a hard time hearing?
Oh, sure.
We do.
Can we agree
There certainly have been challenges. Mr. Zacharaskis, I won't answer that question. Because you're asking me to answer.
Trust me, this is the last place I want to. My grandson. My son and I, down in Norfolk, Virginia right now, going with a guy down there. I'm here. Your team April 17th, I sent an email to
Mr. Zacharaskis, please. Don't use names. We're not here to discuss individual folks.
Well, how many, we've had this conversation. An email was sent to the gym teacher, wanting to know why he hasn't reported one in class. I got an email back saying, I just put the grades up. I don't have anything to do with it. Nobody followed up. I sent an email to you on Wednesday, asking for a follow-up. Because I realized the break and all that. I never got a response. I asked Abe today. Abe told me today. I don't know if it's true or not. But I'm not here. I can't verify it. It tells me it has a 0 in it. And the report card that came on April 17th, there's 41 for PE. No explanation, no notes, nothing. I think if the teacher is going to put a failing grade on a report card, there darn well better be an explanation. There should be a comment. There should be a request to meet with the parents, come in and discuss it. How do we fix this? As you know, I'm very involved with my grandson. He has 2 challenges here, and I'm very fortunate that you guys have help in some regards. But I'm tired of begging people to honor the commitment they've made. It's unprofessional of your staff. This is a darn good school. We're better than this. I want answers. I want them in a reasonable amount of time. April 17th, today, what?
May 8th. May 8th.
I think that's a reasonable time. I shouldn't have to come back and beg. Should not. And I will not do it anymore. This is the last time we'll see you there. I won't be available tomorrow in person. 4 o'clock in the morning, you jump in the truck and go to the truck. I expect answers. Yeah, I'm not going to set the time. I'm going to let you set that time. But this board needs to know that your team is failing in this regard. They are not meeting the commitments that we have. They have to be in your office. It's an informal superintendent there, is that what it was?
Yeah.
A lot of commitments were made, a lot of comments were made. They're not following through on it. They're not following through. And at some point, it becomes a reflection on you. You're a good man. You're doing a great job here. I really like you. I have a lot of respect for you. But they're going to bring, sooner or later, it's going to come to you. You need to get these people involved and do what they say. When can I reasonably expect answers?
So I believe that, so just to clarify, the email that you sent me yesterday,
Oh, I saw, yeah.
I received it at 6:29 PM, okay? So that's why you didn't get an answer back, and it takes me some time, because I do have other commitments during the day, and you've rightly acknowledged that in previous conversations. So I did get back to you mid-afternoon today when I spoke with a staff member. In fact, I spoke with 2 about that email and about the grades that you were looking for, because I don't have that. I don't know why. Well, so when I got a hold of those folks, I believe one of them called you.
Yeah.
And-
Why is the psychologist
Yeah.
going to get his grades? Where's your administration?
Well,
Where's
again,
your gym teachers?
so
Where's
so
your chair people?
so again, we're trying to follow the process of having a single point person like we talked about. And so, and I'm not blaming that on her. She wasn't aware that she was supposed to share that.
It's not her job.
Mm-hmm.
And she's doing a great job. She's probably the brightest star you have. I'm very impressed with her. Very. She's great.
Yeah. And so on
That's
that,
not
yeah.
her job. That's your team's job.
And on
I
this,
reach out to a PE teacher, they should put it on their list. I don't expect them to stop what they're doing, but I do expect them to do it. Now we got a psychologist doing the job of care people, what's going on here? I'm now complaining, I'm out of patience. I think I've been very patient.
so on that one, you should have an answer by tomorrow.
Yep, she
Okay.
assured me that she's gonna give me a call tomorrow.
Yes.
And I believe she will.
Yeah, and on that-
I told her, I'll call them, I'll have my phone with me, I'll be available for your time.
And on that second situation that you were sending some emails about later this afternoon, Again, that was the first that I heard of this, and it was a situation from today.
I don't expect you to handle it.
Well, I do need to make sure that the expectations are clear, okay? And that's what I'm working on. And that's why I emailed that back to you, that I'll work on this. And as soon as I get the answer, somebody will be in contact with you. It wouldn't be me, because I don't have firsthand knowledge of exactly what occurred. But somebody that did have firsthand knowledge, they'll be getting back in touch with
But
you.
the discipline has already been handed out, correct? I understand it, the discipline's already been handed out. Whether it's justified or not, I don't know. If it's justified, 100% support. You know that.
I do.
will support whatever is correct and factual. I don't even know what the comment was. Nobody answered.
Right.
And this happened yesterday, and the agreement was, if something was gonna come up regarding my grandson, I was gonna get a phone call, so that we can make sure it gets handled properly, timely, and accurate. I don't know if it's accurate.
Right.
Your team has dropped the ball. So now, I'm calling into question your competency. You know, I mean, as you read in my email, what Mr. Chartrand wrote from teacher, problem there, not just with my grandson, problem there with your teacher. She's not keeping it, she's letting the situation get out of control. Nobody's talking to me about it. Nobody's getting back to me.
And I think once somebody does, because I read something very different out of that, but I think once somebody's able to tell you exactly what happened, it'll alleviate your fears.
It's different, because
Yeah.
you have information.
No,
I'm in the dark.
no, I have the exact information you had.
More than I do.
Yeah.
I'm in the dark. It comes in 11th hour. I don't know when the referral was given to Mr. Chartrand. I don't know that. I don't know that. I think we know that I want to stay on top of this. I want him to succeed. He's improving. Great team. And I'm very appreciative of that. You have three people in your district doing a wonderful job. That's all it is. She's a shining star. People have to do their job. And I had this conversation with you about begging people to do their job. Not one thing have I come to you about. Was I wrong? I'm not wrong about the things I've come to you about. I've let them sit. They never come through. Never come through. And at some point, it's your call. I'm pretty close to it being your call. Really close. And last place I want to be. Been here 15 years or whatever. I don't know. Don't want to be here. A lot of things like that. My grandson, important. I want this board to know. Your team is safe in this regard. And you need to light a fire under these people and honor the commitments that they make. Not me, not you. That meeting, commitments were made, not me followed. I can't do that. That's you. And your administrator. Your administrators have dropped the ball. I have to pick it up. It's not gonna go on. When should I expect you? I know the PE stuff. I think that's tomorrow.
Like I said, I was working on it late this afternoon, but again, by the time I see all the email,
You set the timetable. When should I expect?
let's say by Monday, because I don't know what tomorrow brings, and who knows, right?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
You're a busy man, you got a lot on your plate. I think you're doing a good job with it. So I'll allow you to set the timetable. I'm okay with that. I'm available all day tomorrow. I'll be in your car all day tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll be available every time. I'll be back Sunday. What I would ideally like to do is have a phone conversation with Katie's father. So that we can all be on the phone at the same time. He's done that before.
Right. Yep.
He's not at all impressed. He brought in here exactly to the problem down in because I can cross. I believe it's, I don't want to lose that game. This is not going down. And I'm not blaming the people in Beckett. I'm blaming the people. They're the ones that's supposed to be
Absolutely. You may even get a call tomorrow, though, at least giving you the background. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Zacharaskis. Any other comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Have a great rest of the week. Good weekend.